Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for coming and checking this video out. Hopefully I can enlighten somebody to some of the things that are going on in the world today, or maybe nobody's gonna care, or maybe I might scare some people off. But there's been a couple people in my life. Well, let me start out with this. I could talk for 10, 12 hours easily on this subject, on these different avenues of information that I've gotten. But I'm going to try to condense it down to just a couple minutes. So I'm going to try to talk through this pretty quick and just try to get the information out there. So to start out, there's a few people in my life that have kind of made an inspiration on me in great ways. One is one of my mom's friends, Dr. Jones Gibbons. She was a doctor. She played classical piano, loved Broadway plays. She was a teacher in Germany, very smart woman. And she told me one day, sitting down at her piano, to get knowledge, get as much knowledge as you can, because knowledge is the one thing that people cannot take away from you. Everything else can be possessed. Knowledge stays with you. Of course, there's dementia and there's things that contradict that idea, but for the most part, you know, it's true. And I've always been interested in kind of obtaining knowledge, usually unique things. You know, I grew up in learning about snow leopards instead of, you know, kids' toys, you know, and stuff like that. So I've always taken a different avenue on it. And ever since then, ever since I talked with her about it, I've kind of escalated that a little bit. I've really tried to reach out to get some knowledge on different things. Another person was David Belusco. He was in the culinary years when I was a chef, and he was a retired police officer for 40 years, I believe. And very wise man, very wise with people, reading people and understanding people, because that was his business. And he used to tell me that whenever he would get somebody in the back of his squad car, arresting somebody, sending them off to jail, most of the people would freak out. They'd freak out. They'd start crying. They would lash out in violence, you know, hitting the back of his seat in the cage area and stuff like that. And he found out through time that most of the reason people do that, or reasons that people do that, is out of fear. You know, I mean, they're going off to jail. Most people have never been to jail that are getting arrested, and they don't know what to expect. And he found out that if he sits and explains the whole process, from being in the back of his car to being released the next day, going in, going through the processing part of it, spending the night in the little horseshoe holding area, getting fingerprinted, seeing the judge in the morning, getting released, bonds and all that kind of stuff, and he would explain the whole process, they would instantly calm down. And actually some of them would thank him after the whole big dramatic process of arresting somebody and all that in a violent way or something like that. They would turn around and thank him because it eases their mind. So kind of goes hand in hand with the other thing, is having the knowledge of knowing what's going on and not the unknown, and having the fear of the unknown is a good combination. Both of them are great on their own, but that's a good combination. Another person is a fellow YouTuber. His name is Jasprit Singh. If I'm not going to pronounce it right, it's an Indian guy. He does a financial channel. It's called Minority Mindsets. And this kind of stems back to quite a long time ago. I was actually sitting in a restaurant and they had some quotes from Jimmy Buffett. And I always found those interesting. You know, I mean, he said a lot of good logical things and stuff like that. But I saw an interview with him and they asked him, okay, what if you lost all your money, your billions and billions of dollars? What if you lost it all today? What would you do? And his answer was very simple. I would just get it back. And I saw that, heard it, and thought about it, and I'm like, you know, there's just some people that are that way. You know, not everybody could do it. If I lost everything I owned right now, would I be able to get it all back? Yeah, probably not. But that goes back to the Minority Mindset channel. But his big thing that he mentions quite often, he does financial stuff for kind of beginners, just explaining a lot of things that are going on, you know, what's going on with the housing market, why is that crashing, stuff like that. But his big thing is be financially educated. You're not going to be able to get anything done if you don't know how to do it. And that's 100%. So with these three things, just basically educating yourself so you don't have to fear what's coming. So I've taken that to the level I started getting into audiobooks and reading books that way. And I've read a handful, a half a dozen, 7 maybe, books basically on the subject. And I've gotten this information from every different avenue, from Republican side to Democratic side to financial side to investors to science and political science to, I mean, every possible avenue that I can learn about this, I did. And one of the best books that I read is a book called The Storm Before the Calm. Not the calm before the storm, but the storm before the calm, by Dr. Freeman or something like that. I'll put his name in the video, but he did a few different books, kind of a little bit on the psychology of generations and how society works in a whole, in the big picture. And he talks about 2 things. One of them, there are 2 cycles that our country and Americans go through. One is the socioeconomic cycle and one is the institutional cycle. Now I'm going to try to sum this up really quick. The socioeconomic cycle is basically society and economics, and they kind of go hand in hand. I believe it's 50 years, our country goes through a cycle to where basically our economy crashes and we have major economy issues, and it goes pretty much side by side with social issues. We start getting a lot of social distress, fighting amongst ourselves, separation, and it gets into even like racism and stuff like that. Not him necessarily, but that is part of our society and the separation of society. The rich, the poor, the politics, the people that don't care, the blue, the red, right, left. Everything is separated. And you get a lot of this unrest, social unrest, I guess. And then usually at the same time, you start having economic issues. And I'm going to go with the recent experience. The last experience was the late 70s into the early 80s. We had a lot of social unrest. We had Jimmy Carter as a president, 18% interest on buying a house. I mean, waiting for gas. I mean, there was a lot of economic issues and a lot of social uprising at the same time. So, and that switched over. President Reagan got in. I'm not saying that I'm biased towards either one. You know, actually Jimmy Carter's in hospice right now, which is a really sad thing. I've been reading a lot on him lately, on the stuff that he did after his presidency. He's a good dude. But anyway, everything kind of switched over. A new presidency came in, new government came in, switched up the whole economic, not the whole, but some of the economic structure to fix the problem from the past. Well, the thing is like when you come up to the end of that cycle, you're basically standing on the shoulders from the last time this happened 50 years ago. And I think that was TDR. And he was basically doing the same things in 1979 that TDR was doing back in 1947. And that does not work for the modern times. We're standing on the shoulders of Ronald Reagan right now. We're on that cycle, Ronald Reagan cycle, to where he came in to fix the economy, cut the taxes from the corporations and the rich to stimulate growth in the companies, to stimulate people to invest into the companies, and you know, that whole process. So really, I mean, it doesn't matter a whole lot whether we have a Democrat or a Republican in. We're all kind of standing on the shoulders of that basic system. And you could take it back to President Clinton and stuff like that for the Democratic side. So anyway, we're at the end of this cycle to where nothing is working. And I think a lot of people can see that now. Our economy is not working. We're about to basically file bankruptcy, if you will, as the United States of America, which not a lot of countries do that. You know, we're in a big world of hurt with our economy. We're in a complete chaotic crisis with our government and our presidencies. I mean, all you have to do is kind of look around and, you know, so we're at the end of the cycle. So the 50-year mark is basically 2024 is when this is supposed to hit. And that's going to be the end of the cycle. Well, 2028 is the presidency, and then 2032 would be the next one. So it's not even so much on the presidency as it is the economy and society, but they kind of go hand in hand. The institutional cycle, which is a big one. This is basically the cycle of wars that our country goes through. It goes from the Revolutionary War was the first cycle, the Civil War, excuse me, was the second, World War II was the third, and we are going into the fourth. So it's pretty spot on. This whole thing, both of these cycles are theories. History does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme. This almost repeats itself verbatim with the whole history of our country. And I highly suggest, if you want to look into any of this, just Google it. It's that precise. I mean, there's no variations of these really anywhere. And you can read about it. Look into it yourself and make your own assumptions, make your own decision up on this stuff. But please look into this a little bit. If you'd like to take it a step further, read that book, The Storm Before the Calm. It'll give you all the details about it. But the institutional cycle has a few things attached to it as well. It also has a break in the economy. There's social unrest. There are just a lot of problems that build up to it, and that's going to be that 10, 12-hour conversation to get into all of that. But for the first time in our history, right now, in the world that we're living in, both of these cycles that have never yet come together at the same time are coming together at the same time. So we have our socioeconomic cycle hitting, and it's 2024. And 2028 to 2032 is going to be our institutional cycle for war. So we have a double negative on the economy. We have a double negative on politics. We have a major war coming our way. We have these things that are kind of coming together, and you see like the social unrest. You can look at like Antifa and stuff like that. Just people really pushing the narrative to go fight the big man, fight the other side, fight the opposite of politics, fight all these different things. But either one of these coming at a time right now would be bad. I mean, we have bad economic things going on. We have bad politics going on. And if you were just to layer on that socioeconomic cycle on top of that, that's going to be bad news. If you were to put the institutional cycle on top of that and pretty much really see that we are going into a major war, that's going to be a really bad thing as well. But we have both of these coming together, and it's damn scary. I mean, it's, in my eyes, and it's just my opinion, it feels like a guaranteed deal to me. And I do have good news, regarding all of this, but it kind of goes back to the inspirations that I had. Learning about these things and knowing about these things, it eases the whole process that's about to happen. I mean, the next maybe 10 years, 9 years or so are going to be pretty chaotic. I mean, we're going to have a lot of craziness going on and stuff like that. But if you know what to expect going into it, you can prepare correctly. You can get in the right mindset to enter this, and you're going to come out a lot better on the other side than a lot of other people that have no idea what's coming, that just gets sideswiped by this whole deal. Because the news doesn't really report on it. They are so censored that, they're controlled by politics. That's a whole other thing. But you know what's going on with mainstream media and stuff, I'm sure. So there's a lot of people that are polarized to the whole thing that's going on, and they're just going about their normal lives. I've been learning about the stock market and stuff like that too. And the stock market basically says the same things, that people aren't really worried about these things that are going on. Every once in a while, there's a gentleman on CNBC in the mornings that, I forget the name of the program, but he's right on board with it. He's like, investing? Well, I'm going to invest in Raytheon because we're going to war, guys. Don't know where you are, but yeah, hello, So I kind of laugh at that because there's not a lot of people that are realizing what's about to come. It's going to be, I think, a lot bigger than what a lot of people think. But the good thing is there's a few good things about this. Now let me get to that. One, it's going to be World War III. There's no sugarcoating that at all. It is not going to be Hollywood World War III. We're living in a complete different world. In 1940, if World War III was to happen, or 1950 World War III was going to happen, there's a bigger possibility on just nuclear bombs going off all over the place, and the little girl holding onto the fence that just gets vaporized and nothing but a skeleton sitting there. It's not going to be that way. Okay, we live in a totally different world now. It's going to be a 5th generation warfare. It's already going on, and that's the thing, is a lot of people don't see this. I mean, 5th generation warfare is going to be more, I'm not going to get into that too much, but it's more psychological. It's going to be more cyber attacks. We're going up against Russia and China. Russia right now, China a little bit later. Both of the superpowers, if you will, on cyber attacks. And that goes to another book that I read as well called The Ultimate Weapon. It's a very good book. Yeah, these infrastructure attacks and stuff like that stamped Russia all over it. These issues that we're having with airports and grounding planes and shutting down terminals and stuff like that got Russia stamped all over it. Russia is big about hitting infrastructure, whether it's power, transportation, or anything like that. Infrastructure, that's his thing. Just look at the war in Ukraine right now and see what he's hitting. He's hitting infrastructure. He's going to hit people where it hurts and make them beg for mercy. That's his style. So that's what he would do with us. So right now, we're fighting Russia, and Russia isn't doing anything, right? Yeah, well, yeah, he is, and it's not going to come out. And the big thing with cyber attacks and these type of attacks on a country is you don't let it be known who is doing it, where it's coming from. If anything, you divert it to somewhere else where it's going to look like it's coming out of the Philippines or something like that, not from Russia. So that's one of the big points, like a 0 day and stuff like that. So it's really hard to place any guilt or place any blame, rather, on anybody over this kind of stuff. We just have to say, oh, it was a software issue or something like that. And we're going to see, once the smoke clears on all of this, we're going to look back and say, okay, yeah, it's very obvious now on exactly everything that was going on. And it started well into 2023 or 2022. So, and if you even want to get into the whole COVID thing, there's that too. So, I was going to talk about good things. So, yeah, there are some good things with it. And really, once this is all over with, and like I said, the smoke clears, and everything is over in the early 2030s, it always goes back into a golden age. If you look back, the last time the institutional cycle turned was for World War II. After World War II, what did we have? That was the mid-40s. We had the 50s and the 60s. Look back at the 50s and the 60s. Those were some of the best times of our lifetimes. It wasn't even my lifetime, but in the generation of the people that are alive on Earth right now, the 50s were the best that it was. If you want to go back to some parts in the 1800s, there was another cycle then after the Civil War, freeing slavery, some really good times. We got railroads, electricity, and all this different stuff. And after World War II, we got air conditioning. We got the microchip out of World War II, things that really changed the world and changed society. We're going to go into another golden age. We're going to go into another 1950s. It's going to be peace. It's going to be a whole lot of peace, which is going to be absolutely awesome. And we're going to get some technology out of this war that's coming up that is going to blow our minds. Stuff that we can't even comprehend right now, like GPT, whatever it is a toy. It's kind of a joke. It's funny that people are flipping out about it, and Microsoft invested so many millions of dollars into it. It's a toy. That is nothing compared to what artificial intelligence could do. I think a lot of people know that, but we're getting a taste of it, and we want it so bad. So people are making a big deal about it. And because of that, there's going to be a market for it. Because there's a market for it, people are going to invest into it and make money on it. So that's why that's going on. but we're going to hit a golden age. Now, there's going to be two scenarios that happen, with the institutional cycle and going to war. The war is going to be most likely with China. It could be Russia and China. Only time will tell on that. But China is the big one because they're the uprising power. They are basically the inevitable war that's bound to happen. It's destined to happen. So they've already been a superpower in the past. They're going to do it. They've been working on this for the better part of 100 years. And they've been really at it for about the last 15 to 20 years, building their military, opening up for international exchange. Their economy has just exploded. I mean, everything has just absolutely exploded there. They can build a 36-story skyscraper in 9 days. Their industry is just unbelievable out there, which is a little bit scary because they can build tanks that fast too. So anyway, we're probably going to be going up with China. That's going to be our main adversary in the war. And we can win or we can lose. If we win, everything's going to be great. We're going to get a lot of technology. We hit a golden age. Everything's good. Now, if we lose, it's going to be good as well because of this one point. Now, I love America. I don't want us to lose this. I don't want us to lose soldiers overseas. Obviously, I want us to win, but there is the chance for us to lose because they do outrank us in certain ways that it's going to be a battle of economics. It's not a battle for military superiority. It's a battle of taking over basically the world currency. The dollar is not going to be held against petrol. It's not going to be a petrol dollar. And our fiat currency is diving anyway. I mean, it's destined to fail. Every single fiat currency has failed. So they're looking to step into that place to basically take over world economics. Well, if they become the sole superpower after World War III is done and the dust settles, well, guess what? Have you heard the term why are we sending over $600 billion to Ukraine when we have starving homeless veterans in our streets and stuff like that? Yeah, I mean, pick your story. I mean, all that. Why are we spending money on this when we need to be spending money on this? Well, that's because we are the global superpower. We are the police. We are the vice principal of the world. We are this, we are that. We have to go out and do these things. It's not that we really want to, it's that we're obligated to. So if we lose the war, we can go over to China and say, here you go, buddy. Have fun with that. And we can turn around and start putting the time, the money, the effort, the love back into our own country. And not have to worry about policing everything, not have to worry about getting involved in every single military conflict around the world, not have to worry about any of this stuff. We might be able to push it off onto another country and say, okay, you want the number one spot? Here you go. It's lonely on top. Have fun with that. Either way, our country's going to come out awesome out of this. So as we have a lot of things that are kind of on our doorstep right now, a lot of serious things on our doorstep, go out and get the knowledge. I highly recommend reading some of those books, but even just go through and Google the institutional cycle and the socioeconomic cycle. The institutional cycle is spot on no matter where I've looked. The socioeconomic cycle, it jumps around a little bit, but it's the same basic principle pretty much everywhere I've looked into it. The institutional cycle is 4 sections, and the 4th section, which is the one that we're in right now, which is basically the whole chaotic part, is also called the 4th turning. So you can look into the 4th turning as well. That's part of the institutional cycle. The rest of the institutional cycle is all good stuff. It's coming out of a war, it's reinventing ourselves and stuff like that. So, yeah, to try to wrap this up a little bit, we are already in the process of going through this. Go out, learn about these things that I'm talking about right now. If you agree with it, share it. Share some information with some other people. Get people prepared. And it comes back to preparation as well. And I really kicked my preps into high gear once I started realizing all these things. That it's as plain as day, you know, writing on the wall, anything you want to say, it's right there in front of you once you actually learn what's going on. So definitely prep, buy food, buy food, buy food. That's going to be, there's a lot of control over our food system. Infrastructure, deliveries, trains, boats, planes, trains, automobiles, all that stuff. It all has to do with food. So yeah, do your best to prepare. I don't think it's going to be absolute blackout. You know, we'll probably have some power outs and stuff like that, but whether we get EMPs or nuclear bombs dropping in our neighborhood, probably not. I'm not expecting it. It's going to be a lot different than we think, but still you have to prepare for these things and you have to be ready for whatever the East is going to throw at us, because they're going to throw a lot of crap at us. And we got to get ready for it. So yeah, I figured I'd go ahead and talk about this because it's been on my mind for months and I've really been wanting to do a video on it. And I haven't really had the time to do a video because I wanted to do like a 2-hour video talking about these things and explaining them, but I just really don't have the time. So I tried to condense this down as quick as I could in as short a time as I could. So hopefully it's not too long. I appreciate it. Look into these things, learn, don't be afraid of the future. Prepare yourself for the future, and we have some really golden times coming. So on the bright side, life's going to be really, really good after this, and I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to it. So I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for checking out this video. Peace.